Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Welcome back to Whiskey Congress. We're together again in the Cleveland studio. We do have a whiskey to review. It is Timber Creek Bourbon from Florida. A friend of mine gave it to me. I should start by saying it's a less than 2-year-old bourbon. And it shows.
It does. Right out of the gate. I'm not sure what happened, why they pulled it before 3 years. I don't know.
I think there was like part of their competition was, different categories. And so it was, I think, specific to categories. Yeah, okay. I think so.
So right out of the gate, you can tell just from a whiskey perspective that it's young, and it hasn't fully kind of cooked off some of the heat. And what that means is just that the alcohol content is still high.
Yeah, it's 100 proof,
right?
It tastes it,
right? I mean, it's 50%, ABV, and that's not by design technically, right? I mean, because as it ages through that initial process, that'll go down some, and then they can kind of
they'll cut it,
right? They'll cut it and manipulate it. But this is it's sweet. It's got a caramel flavor to it. It's corn, wheat, rye. It's hot on, like it's literally hot on your tongue.
Yeah,
and it's got a burn on the way down, and that burn doesn't go away. So back-to-back sips is aggressive. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on video, you may be able to see the facial expressions as it goes down. I'd like to see what it tastes like after a couple more years of aging, but I went ahead and gave it an 84.
I gave it an 83.
83, yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
we're almost too well synced in our whiskey scoring. I mean, I guess that should be a good thing because it means we're.
Well, I've taught you well, Jim.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's drinkable. It does. I agree with you. I think it has the potential to be. If it was a bit smoother, it does have a decent flavor profile, but the alcohol just blows it away so aggressively, and then they have.
Yeah, and I think that if it tastes like they added. There's something
formaldehyde. I think is what you.
No, it does taste.
That was
like
a cheap shot. That was not fair. Sorry.
Right. It tastes like they added something to it. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something off a little bit.
It's got great color for being only 2 years old. I wonder if they added something that impacted the color.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I think they added some sort of flavoring or color or something because it's a little bit off. But hey,
it got into the 80s. It got it.
For us,
right?
Yeah, so
anyway, that was.
I don't even know if you can get this. You probably have to go to Florida or something like that to get it.
A friend of mine went to did a tasting and brought it back for me. I don't know if it's available anywhere outside of Florida. Yeah. But anyway, there's Timber Creek from Florida. All right. So, how was your week?
Interesting. Work related. Been working on an interesting project. This is one thing we didn't talk about pre-show. I did finally see Black Panther. So
did you? Okay,
I did. And before we get into that, I want to talk about this weird thing that happened. So on Instagram, I unfollowed someone, right?
Okay,
which apparently is a big no-no. And I unfollowed someone. This person happened to be gay. We know this from his Instagram profile. Rainbows, unicorns, bears, cubs, all that stuff. Didn't really bother me. I think I'd been following for a while, but I noticed over time he would show up in my feed, and the pictures that he was posting were getting a little bit more provocative. Him in Speedos and short shorts and harnesses and things like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm good with this. And so I unfollowed him, didn't think anything of it. And, within a couple hours, he shows up in my direct messages, my private messages, asking me why I unfollowed him. And I explained to him, I said, hey, no, nothing huge. I just, some of the pictures that you're posting, not really what I want to see. So, I just pulled them out. I unfollowed you so that I wouldn't see them. And so he proceeds to tell me that I'm homophobic and that people like me are why Donald Trump got elected and that hate. You need to spread hate, not love. And I kind of
love, not hate. I would hope.
Or love, not hate, and all this other stuff. And I was kind of taken aback, like, whoa, where is all this coming from? And I as much as you can explain going back and forth in those sort of messages, I said, listen, it really has nothing to do with your sexual preference. It's just that my sexual preference, I'm attracted to women. I'm attracted to, curvy women and athletic women. I like women. So you are a man. I'm not attracted to men. And you and your lifestyle that you choose to live, I don't really care about. But once you start to post it on something that I voluntarily choose, like I voluntarily choose to follow you, then, that's not what I want to see. So I unsee it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I didn't attack you. I didn't say, hey, anything, no derogatory names. It just, and I explained to him, I said, listen, I don't want to see anyone bullied. I don't want to see anyone attacked, displaced, discriminated against. I said, I like, if anything like that were happening to you, I would have your back unequivocally. Right.
Sure.
But, I believe that gay people should be able to get married, be able to adopt, have kids, however you have to have kids, surrogate, adoption, two lesbians and one of the women gets pregnant, whatever, none of all that. I'm all for. Go for it. There shouldn't be a law stopping you. There shouldn't be any prerequisites. I don't think we should even have to write it into our laws, but we have to make it law to protect people. I believe in all of that, and I support it. But that being said, I don't,
choosing not to want to see something is not a hate crime.
Right. Choosing not to want to see, you in your underwear with a harness on is not me being anti-gay. It's just me not being gay. Right. I mean, it's just not something that I'm into. So I don't want to see it. My Instagram is about fitness, whiskey, and cigars, and then the few people that I know who, post a million pictures of their kids.
Do you know this guy on a personal level?
No, not at all. I mean,
how did you end up following him in the first place?
I think his page originally started more fitness related.
Okay.
Right. And so I follow people because that's the one great thing about social media for me and what I like to do, the things I'm interested in. It's a way to kind of, see different things and learn different things. There's different exercises I've picked up. There's, thought process on, programming and getting ready for meets that I use or just general fitness. And so if I see someone with a decent physique or decent lips, then I'll follow them. Now, if it gets weird or whatever or something that I don't like, then I can unfollow. It's not the end of the world. Not everyone follows me. People unfollow me all the time. So I don't use
Instagram enough. I didn't know that you got a notification when someone unfollowed you.
You don't. That's the weird thing. You don't get notification that someone unfollows you. Recently, what's happened, if you follow someone and you go to their profile, if you go to the profile, then it'll say you can message them if you're both following them. But if you don't if he comes to my page and I'm not following him, I have no idea how he found out that I was unfollowing. And I know there's apps.
I think there are ways to know if someone follows you because I think I've heard people on. I think Cody Brown from Alan Cox Show was talking about someone getting mad at him for him unfollowing somebody. So it must be a way. There's
third-party apps, I know for sure, and some people just watch it like a hawk. What I mean? They watch it like a hawk. They go through, and I mean, it's crazy. And which again, part of some of the issues, societal issues that we're having from a social media standpoint, like people's obsession with becoming social media famous, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. And so I just thought that was an interesting interaction.
It sucks getting called a bigot or a homophobe or whatever. I know you. I know we have at least one mutual gay friend. You've hung out with some of my gay friends. I know you're not homophobic at all.
Right.
From actual interactions in sports bars and our dive pubs and whatever.
But
it does suck when someone makes that.
Right. When someone makes that accusation, that you're this, terrible thing. And I think people naturally get defensive whether they are or they aren't.
Right.
Right. There are people who are flat out racist. Right. But if you call them a racist, they will get very I am no such thing. Just because I can't stand black people doesn't make me a racist. But I just, and so I get it, and that's why I think we need to be careful with just slinging these terms around, just because there's a disagreement or there's a difference in how we perceive things doesn't necessarily mean that I hate however you identify.
I don't want to see what you're posting, so I'm not going to pay attention to you
I don't
anymore.
want to see again. It doesn't make me homophobic. It just means that I'm not gay.
Right. Or you just don't. I mean, even if I'm sure there's gay people who are like, dude, tone it down.
Right. Exactly. There are straight people who don't like to see provocative images of the opposite sex or whatever they're attracted to.
I am not one of those people.
Right. There are some people who just believe in a certain level of modesty.
Right. Exactly. I am not one of them.
Right.
Nor are you. I understand.
Nope. But that's okay. Like whether you like modesty or you like seeing whatever, there is still this thing called freedom of choice.
Right.
Right. And so to attack me because I don't like what you choose to put, and it comes out of nowhere. Like I was very discreet about it, just like unfollow,
right?
Done. I just thought it was like I said, a bizarre exchange.
That is bizarre. It reminds me of Uncle Leo and Seinfeld when every time something bad happens, it's because they're anti-Semitic. It's like, I don't think that's the case, Uncle Leo. You don't just overcook a hamburger, Jerry.
The hypersensitivity is something that I talk about all the time, and I don't want to go into the PC, too much PC, whatever, but I do believe that people have to get back a sense of like they need to kind of come back to the center a little bit.
Yeah, big time.
Not everything is an attack or an assault on you or how you identify, right? Whether you're a white male or a gay male or a lesbian or a woman or whatever, or a policeman, because now anyone who can identify as anything is finding a way to say I am under attack. I'm the victim. I'm the victim now.
Yeah,
look at me. You see me? I'm the victim now.
Okay, is that I'm the captain now? Yeah. I should tell you, I had a bit of a funny thing. Thursday night, I got back into town, hadn't seen any of my comedy buddies in a while, and I got into total I love you man mode. Riley Nesballah is a guy who's actually talked about coming on our show. He's a good guy. He is in fact gay, and I think I hugged him like 6 times. I was like, realizing it was like, good to see you, man, and then I'll see you later, and then the next bar, hey man, how you doing?
Was Jimmy Strokeface in the building?
No, I was not. I was just way in I love you man mode. And I was just hanging with my comedy buddies, a little bit more aggressive. All right, frankly, I don't remember the exact end of the night. I do know that I paid my bar tab, and I got home safely, and I did not have a vehicle with me at any point in the night, which made this.
And you had your keys. You didn't end up locked out.
All right, you were not. You know what?
I'm just saying that's
fair
a good.
enough.
That's
a good thing. Dirty laundry, you son of a bitch. Anyway, also, okay, I was supposed to do some CIA crack in LA homework. I did not do it.
Okay.
So I get an incomplete for my homework assignment, but it's not a dead issue.
All right, bring it back. So I want to jump into this Black Panther thing now.
Oh yeah.
So it's late. And now there's a couple reasons why I didn't see it. One, busy, it's hard. I have a kid, but there was a little bit of an emotional aspect tied to it. The big hype weekend that I was supposed to go see it, my dog died, and I had a couple opportunities to go see it, and it kept taking me back to like losing my dog. And I know it sounds like a whatever ridiculous thing. No,
it's just, I love your dog too.
Right. I just like every time I couldn't bring myself to do it. So finally. It's been over a month now, and I'm just like, all right, let's 6 weeks or whatever, how long it's been. And, I felt ready to do it and kind of detached from that. So, I'll tell you a side story later. I'll tell you right now. So I'm pissed at my kitchen about this whole thing, my kitchen floor. So I had a contractor in yesterday to look because I'm ripping up the floor.
Okay.
But anyway, because the floor is the reason the dog died. So I go to see Black Panther by myself. It's me and one other person in the theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because it was kind of an odd time for the show or whatever.
Because it was still number 1 in the box office a week ago. I don't know about this week, but it has stayed at the top of the box office.
The time that I went to see it, it was like midday on a Sunday or whatever. So I go see it, and I thought it was good. And I had to look at I was looking at it through a couple different lenses.
Did you experience black joy?
Pause.
Okay.
Not funny. This is not funny. So first I was watching the movie through the eye of a person who read the comic books and was familiar with the characters, the landscape, and everything that was going on, and familiar with the Marvel universe as it relates to the movies. And in terms of Marvel movies, it's probably my third. It's probably third or fourth on my list in terms of just overall enjoyment of the movie.
What's number one? I won't make you rank them all, but you have to put one at the top. Just I want a barometer for
me, Civil War is number one. Captain America: Civil War. That was my number one. Number two was actually The Winter Soldier. And then number three for me would probably be the Avengers, like the first Avengers, and then Black Panther. Then Thor Ragnarok and Spider-Man, and then it goes on and on. Anyway.
All right.
So this one though, once I kind of got through some of my issues from a comic book standpoint, I thought the movie was brilliantly done.
Okay.
From beginning to end, it's interesting. It's captivating. It's different. It is different. I mean, it's a movie about African people, very African centric. You only have a few white actors that have major key roles, and they're not the hero in any way, shape, or form. They help, they assist, but it's not like this. It comes to a happy ending because Matthew McConaughey showed up and saved everybody because he's just this brilliant guy. No. And Matthew McConaughey is not in this movie.
Okay,
but that's typically how 12 Years a Slave.
Sure.
It ends up being about Matthew McConaughey.
A Time to Kill.
All these movies end up being about the white hero that comes in to kind of save the day, and that's not what this was. This movie was very Afrocentric. The acting was good. It had its funny parts. It had its serious parts. I thought Michael B. Jordan, who plays Eric Killmonger, I thought he did a very good job. First of all, he got jacked for this role. And he was jacked in Creed, but he's bigger than he was in Creed. And he did a good job of balancing kind of like a true urban, hip hop feel and flavor, kind of just like that feel from The Wire. Did you watch The Wire?
You know what? I did not.
You haven't? Okay.
I did not.
So he was young in The Wire, though. He was very young. But he kind of brought that street sense with your modern day soldier attitude and a connectivity to kind of what was going on the African countryside, which I thought was interesting. And then there was an aspect that for me that I didn't anticipate coming or happening. There was a very emotional side of this to me.
Okay.
Because you have this place, Wakanda, that I've known about my entire life, and I've always thought, like, wow, this is so cool, right? And just from a comic book standpoint, like, oh, they have vibranium, and vibranium is so cool, and that's a big part of the movie. And if
I know
you see it,
a little bit about it, but yeah.
So the fucked up part about this for me, and I couldn't get over this towards the end of the movie, was I'm watching this, and there's such a connectivity for the people, the characters in the movie to this imaginary place.
Okay.
Right? But in reality, there's no place like that for me. Right? Like there's no place like that.
It's very utopian, right? I mean, I know just
hold on, pause. Okay. There's, whether utopian or not, there's no place for me other than right here in the United States for me to go to and say, like, connect with my people, or connect with, like, you can go to Poland, you can go to Italy, and you can see what
my
your
ancestry,
roots are,
right? Yep,
right?
Yep.
I mean, and there's a lot of people, like, and I think you to a certain degree, and a lot of people who they know that they're Slovak, they know that they're Irish, they know that whatever, and they can make the connection with a sticker or a necklace or a magnet or what have you. And on Columbus Day or St. Patrick's Day, hey, everybody's Irish, or everybody's Italian, whatever.
Dingus Day is coming up.
Right. But I mean, they make that connection and then they kind of move on. But if you really wanted to, you could say, you know what? I'm having a come to Jesus moment. I really want to learn more about myself, what my family is. You can go pretty far back and get pretty close to where your family is from and what it's all about.
Yeah, my mom and sister went to Italy last year to do exactly that.
Right. I mean, and that's something that I can't do. Now, some people say, well, you can do ancestry.com or you can do one of these gene gene sort of things that'll give you an idea. And yeah, you can do that.
But do they go down to the nation in Africa or just African?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I've seen some where it looks like they can get to where you're from nationally, but my issue with that is I don't feel comfortable giving my DNA to some random company. And what are they going to do with it, right? I mean, because I read too many comic books, all I see is this super mutant being created with everybody's DNA, and I just think that's bizarre. So, but I guess for me, it's just that overall lack of connectivity. Other than saying, I'm probably mostly African, right?
Right.
But I mean, could be some Mexican or South American, could be Native American or whatever, and my skin's light enough to where at some point in time there's some sort of European mix in there. And it just, that unfamiliarity all of a sudden just kind of hit me in the theater, right? Like you actually, like as much as they're connecting in this movie, right? And as much as the people in the movie who made it were able to connect and probably, I'm sure, went to different places in Africa, like the reality for me is that not being able to do that, not being able to, like the closest thing that I have is a movie or a comic book was, I can't explain it, but there was a certain weight that I felt kind of on my shoulders that just came down all of a sudden. And you think about history and you think about my history as an African American and kind of where it started and how it began and now where we're at. And all the trials and tribulations that Black people have been through from slavery, even before that, and to now, it's incredibly disheartening, right? And for a brief moment, you're just like, what the fuck? Like, right? I mean, like, how are we ever going to get out of this kind of quagmire that we're in? But then, towards the end, you get out of it because there's enough in the movie that kind of snaps you out of that and brings you back to the fact that, all right, it's just a movie and it's fun and enjoy it. And then the more you think about it, as fucked up as things were in the beginning, we are a lot further ahead than we were now. There's a lot to cling to. And while I can't go back to this place, I can't go back. I don't have my own personal Wakanda, or I don't have my own personal Sicily or my own personal Moscow or whatever you are. I am from the United States. I am,
right.
I can go back to Texas at the very least, and New Orleans. And there's plenty of history and culture there that I can at least say this is a big part of who I am. It may not be everything, but it's a big part of it.
And I think a lot of the reason that there is so much, for lack of a better word.
God damn, that's terrible.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait till you take a sip of, so we got Bullet bourbon also. Wait till you take a sip of Bullet. You'll feel like it's just a different world.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, I was actually waiting for your reaction to that because I took a sip of Bullet. I'm like, this is just different stuff altogether. But I mean, some people get upset about it. Some people are very proud of it. But the fact is there's a lot of culture generated in Black American society that is, whether it's food or music or whatever. And I think a big part of that is you can't go back to,
right,
a nation prior to America. So, we're going to build our own culture, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, it just, and it's funny.
It offends some people. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people.
A lot of really good food came from that.
Right, well, true. Yes, it has.
And some really gross stuff too, but that was out of necessity. I mean, I ain't eating chitlins. Sorry.
I mean that's a lot. I mean, we call that the slave diet.
Okay.
Because it is what it is. I mean, like you were a
slave.
You ate,
you ate what you could. I understand.
You ate what you had. You ate what you got. And you didn't have a choice because your job in the morning was not the easiest. So, there is a backlash to Black people kind of create, Kwanzaa is a big thing that pisses white people off to no end. Oh, it's a made up holiday. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, what the fuck, right? What do you want us to do? Like, we'll just assimilate and accept ours. Like, all right, well, that kind of sucks though if you think about what you're telling us to do. And so, but you're right. And so a lot of our culture is generated well after the fact. It's young, whether it's the music or the food or things like Kwanzaa and different things like that. Some of it I embrace, some of it I don't. And unfortunately, you have to pick and choose. You have to figure out kind of where you fit in all this. And it's an interesting journey, and it never ends. For a person like me, it will never end because I think it's constantly evolving, and I'm hopefully a part of it evolving to being something positive. Or continuing to be positive, because for all the negative that gets talked, there's so much positive that Black people have brought to the table, that are in the middle of doing, that will be done, and hopefully I can be a representative of the good, along with everyone else who's doing good things, and keep pushing it forward. But I mean, the movie just it struck up a lot of things, because it's different than a slave movie where, man, that looks like it sucks because it did. Fortunately for us, this white guy comes and saves the day. Whew, all right.
Thank you, Matthew McConaughey.
Right. Well, I'm going to go drive my car off a cliff after I drink a bucket of whiskey after that. Yay, Roots. Thanks, Alex Haley. Love to do that again.
Well, that says a lot about Black Panther as a movie, though. The fact that it can be, I'm guessing it's an action-packed movie based on. So it's got action, it's got cool, sleek technology, and it's able to get you to enjoy the story, and it's a somewhat new, or not new, but somewhat different, because it doesn't have the Matthew McConaughey saves the day thing, and it also made you think about the bigger picture. So that speaks a lot for that as a movie.
And there was one other aspect of it that pissed me off, but it wasn't the actual movie itself. There's so many Black people who couldn't tell you what Black Panther the comic book was before, that have changed their social media name to Wakanda Forever. They're wearing Wakanda Forever T-shirts. It's all about Wakanda, Wakanda, Wakanda. Like there's this thing, Karen Hunter on SiriusXM, she's talking about who can go to Wakanda, who can't. And I'm like, Karen, I don't know if I'm letting you into Wakanda, bitch, because you didn't know what it was about, 6 months ago. Pardon my language. I mean, no, all due respect. But
now
here you come.
Because
I'm sure she, hated on the comic book nerds, when she was young, and now all of a sudden, oh, look how great it is. Like, okay, Karen. But other than that, though, all good. Okay. Thank you very much.
You feel better now?
Is it me? Anyway,
all right. So. Anyway, glad you finally got to see it. I have not seen it yet, though. It's one of those things. I don't go to theater very often, so I'll wait till it comes to.
Yeah, you can't
TV.
go. I can't have you go to the theater by yourself. I'll have to bail you out. They'll be like, this dude, man, he's creeping me out.
All right. Anyway, all right. So a bunch of stuff happened in the news. I don't know if we can get to all of it. I want to really pick on some media issues, though, because Laura Ingraham went after David Hogg, one of the Parkland shooting survivors, who has been very outspoken. And these kids aren't going away, right? I mean, they have stayed vigilant, relevant in the eye of the media for a lot longer than school shootings typically do. And I think part of it probably has to do with it being a white, affluent suburb.
There's listen, I had some criticism and critiques initially. Those students, with the help of others, put on that March for Our Lives.
Right.
And my initial critique was, are they going to, basically, what about gun violence in the inner city? What about the kids who have to deal with that day in and day out? Where do those kids' voices come in? And again, to my surprise, they included a lot of those voices. Those kids were able to speak. There was no, they were able to speak independently, and those kids spoke clearly. There was a young Black girl who started naming off her friends that had been killed. There was another, Black boy whose, brother and father had been killed, who spoke. And they had their time and they had their opportunity to speak. And so, to be fair, it was a broader reaching statement, not just, hey, protect us white kids in the suburbs from school shootings, but gun violence in the country is a problem. And this is, it's impacting not just us, but this other group of people. Hear their voices, hear our voices, let's do something. Now, again, when you talk about the statistics and you look at it, there's some things there's multiple conversations to be had that need to be had with an open mind, that need to be looking at the actual facts and looking at the actual data. And we need to get to some root causes, but I think that's a separate conversation for another day. But David Hogg has been one of those who's been very loud, very outspoken. Laura Ingraham goes after him because the kid is not getting, he got rejected from a number of,
universities despite having a good GPA.
And, she called him out on it. Now, I have some issues with David Hogg because he is being swept up in the, if you disagree with me, you're wrong. And, you should be attacked. You know, I mean, like you
Right.
can see him falling.
If you
into
unfollow me on Instagram, you hate.
Essentially. I mean, that sort of mindset. Like, if you disagree with me at all, then if you're not with me, you're against me. And so, but Laura Ingraham attacks him over, calls him out for not getting into universities, like. Kind of like, well, this is what you get. See,
right now,
like,
I think most of the universities he didn't get into were like California universities. He's from Florida, obviously.
Right, and
it's a bitch to get into a California.
If you're out of state in California,
oh my gosh.
I mean, it is very hard to get in. I mean, unless you are an athlete, right? I mean,
right.
But even then, California isn't great with, not that they're not great, but it's still kind of hard to get into their state school system if you're not from there.
Right.
I mean, they have so many students to choose from. Like, it makes sense.
A lot of students to choose from. When I was working in Irvine, Irvine high schools, there were kids who were having anxiety meltdowns because they weren't perfect 5.0 students, and if they weren't perfect 5.0 students, they weren't getting into UCLA or whatever. So it's cutthroat. But regardless of the numbers and logistics, what a shitty thing for Laura Ingraham to do.
Yeah, and that's the.
And there's two things about it. A, it's shitty. It's just petty garbage that someone who. There have been times where I've actually listened to her radio show and liked it. It's been a while, but the pettiness is one thing, but the attempt to distract from the big issue is one of the real problems, right? Because it's like, well, this kid doesn't get into school because he hates the Second Amendment. No, he's not getting into these schools because they're fucking difficult to get into. Right. And you don't want to talk about the real issue because, as former Supreme Court Justice Stevens said, the Second Amendment debate is not as constitutionally strong as the NRA would like you to believe. Apparently, it has entirely to do with states protecting themselves against a tyrannical government. The landscape has changed. He said that was basically an 1800s principle where you didn't want to have a federal army without independent state armies. And if you look at the history of warfare, especially if you look at the Civil War, there were independent armies in every state, as well as a Union army and a Confederate army. So that's not where we are in 2018. In fact, we haven't been there in 100 years. I'm not saying get rid of the Second Amendment. I'm saying don't use a bullshit argument, because if you're claiming that the Founding Fathers wanted individuals to protect themselves from a tyrannical government, that's not what it was about.
Okay. There's that.
Okay, sorry.
But then there was also the Halley decision, which also basically said that independently...
Heller?
Or Heller.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of the Halley building here in Cleveland.
Okay.
But there was a Heller decision, which then comes out and, without getting into the constitutional aspect of it, kind of cements the idea of individuals having the right to bear arms.
Yep.
Right. I mean, so that's your constitutional argument. That's where you can
argue by the Supreme Court.
You can argue the words of the Constitution, or if we're looking at the actual case law and what the precedent is, that's where we're at.
Okay.
And so, I mean, again, so there is a debate. I think Justin Stevens, being a retired Supreme Court justice, I wasn't too...
And a Republican.
I wasn't too keen on him doing what he did because I felt like there was something behind that that was a little disingenuous. Because of the position that he's in, like he has no responsibility or anything.
Was he a dissenter in the Heller decision? He must have been.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I believe his argument, but the problem is, like, you're not in a position to do anything about it. You're just throwing this out there, and you know that it was going to blow up for a day or two, and then what was going to happen. Right, and it's not like he's going to continue to push this. I mean, he'll go around, he'll get paid for speeches, maybe, I don't know, or maybe he'll just sit there and golf.
He's 97, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's not quite that old, but he's up
old.
there either way. I mean, he's near a century. So, I don't know. That rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, but still. But we did write about it on our website, so go to whiskeycongress.com and check it out.
Well done. So anyway, just Laura Ingraham, shut your pie hole is my final.
And I think this is what happened. Laura Ingraham got away with, telling different celebrities to,
shut up and sing,
shut up and do whatever you do. Now, going back, she did tell Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr to shut up and coach. She told LeBron to shut up and dribble.
She wrote a book called Shut Up and Sing regarding Bruce Springsteen.
Talking about different entertainers to shut up and do whatever they do. And so I think she felt entitled or empowered to be able, hey, no one gave me shit about this. I mean, like, people gave me shit, but I had so many people come to my back about LeBron or these coaches or whoever. I can tell anyone I want to shut up. So she tells this kid, and this kid mobilizes the fact that, he's, young, he's, 17 or 18 or however old he is. And it's like, hey, why are you attacking a kid? Like, I'm not LeBron. I'm just some kid who, happens to be a survivor of a mass shooting where I watched my friends die.
Right.
So that kind of seems shitty. And then immediately they turn on her. They started a campaign for her advertisers to drop. She's taking a week off after the fact. And so she got burned by her own hubris in this instance of being an asshole. Right? Like, she's been an asshole for the last 10 years, just telling people to shut up and do whatever they do. And now she's the one who, like, it comes back full circle to bite her in the ass. Kind of what you get. Yeah. Kind of what...
Play with matches, you get burned.
Right. Like, why... I mean, and listen, it's really... Like, why would you even go there? Are these kids untouchable? Should they be able to just say and do whatever they want and not have to face any criticism? I mean, and then say they're under 18 and they were victims, so they should be able to say whatever they want with above reproach. I don't agree with that, but I think if you're going to do it, you need to do it tactfully and tastefully, and not just, hey, I'm celebrating in your failure
and have a legit point to stand on. Right,
exactly.
You're not getting into schools. Ha ha ha. Fuck you.
Right, exactly. And that's what she's getting right now. She's getting fucked because, metaphorically, I don't know what she's actually doing now.
Stop. I don't know where this is going to go, but I know it will be
I don't either. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she is, but whatever. She is getting screwed over. That's a little bit better.
All right.
Because of her own sort of, just her ego.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she's been elevated up the ranks in Fox because of the departure of all the sex offenders. I mean, they stick her in there as we can't be accused of this. I'm not saying she just got the job because she's a woman, but it probably didn't hurt.
Well,
they kick out O'Reilly.
They lose Megyn Kelly. They lose Van Susteren. You had the number of women who were suing Fox or suing O'Reilly or suing Roger Ailes. They had to stop the bleeding. So they put a woman in there with a strong conservative voice to aid with their image.
And the reason I said I used to like Laura Ingraham and the reason I do have some respect for her or had some is when I was listening to a radio show, and this is back in the early 2000s, she at least held herself to a logical standard. She wouldn't just say things that made no sense. That's gone. She's whether it's drinking the Kool-Aid or following the company line, she's just marching in lockstep with the Fox mentality, and it's made me lose the respect that I had for her.
I mean, she was.
She's a lawyer. She's a lawyer by trade.
Yeah, she's a lawyer. I mean, that is getting annoying to say because there's so many of these people that are lawyers, and you're just like, really? Now she had a legitimate career, through.
She was a speechwriter for Reagan. Okay,
she was a speechwriter for Reagan, and she I think spent some time at a relatively large firm, and then has been pretty steady in media. I think she was at a decent sized firm, speechwriter for Reagan, and then has been in media pretty much ever since. You get a gig in the White House, your media career has taken off since Reagan. But I get the fact that I'm sure at one point in time she was a sane, reasonable person. She actually, money is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
And the working for Fox, I mean, we see the people that they put up there that there's just no objectivity whatsoever. But MSNBC is the same way. CNN, the media in general, is driving these narratives. They're driving division. They're trying to pull people apart, and they're successful in doing so.
It works like a charm, doesn't it?
And they're not being objective, and they're pushing these different narratives, and they're impacting the way that you and I talk to each other, the way we talk on this show. We have to, I push you to say, listen, we got to go to different places to get art. We can't just stick with the normal, CNN's, all that stuff.
I'm about done with CNN until they shut the fuck up about Stormy Daniels. Okay, we get it. He fucked a porn star. Okay, it's a legal issue. Fine, we get it. You're not giving us news. You're giving us
It's infotainment.
Infotainment, it's sensationalism.
TMZ.
And exactly. If I want that shit, I'll go to TMZ. I got into a huge fight with a buddy of mine years ago when Michael Jackson died. And all the major news outlets were covering the Michael Jackson post-mortem for like 3 weeks. And then Fox said, we're so disgusted that all we're talking about is Michael Jackson's death. We're going to cover how much we're mad about Michael Jackson's death, which is doing the same fucking thing. So I was just like so annoyed with MSNBC, Fox, CNN, because I thought, okay, this belongs on E. It belongs on entertainment-based stuff. His death was obviously big news. He was a pop megastar. But 2 weeks later, talking, they needed to drop it.
But I get your, this whole thing with our president, it's non-consequential because even if Cohen did pay her, I mean, it seems like he paid her off. It was during the campaign. You bring Cohen up on charges, the campaign,
if there was financial shenanigans.
But I mean, you go through all that, but is that going to be enough to impeach and remove Donald Trump from office? No, right? Because ultimately, what happens is Michael Cohen takes the fall for it,
right?
And that's it. I mean, because the only way that you're really going to get Donald Trump on it is if he lies about it under oath, right? And then they can impeach him on that. But by the way, you've got the GOP has control of the House and the Senate,
right?
So the idea that you're going to get enough people behind the idea of impeaching him is insane unless they try to drag this thing out.
And we need to stop giving a shit who fucked who. If it's consensual, whatever.
It's not that not that we do. It's that people
do. We don't.
We don't. But I mean, in general, this is just people are just consuming information indiscriminately, right? So the media says, you know what? They'll pay if we keep putting it out there. They'll watch. So I mean, just keep putting Blondie with the boobs out there until
the ratings dip.
Right, until her boobs dip or the ratings dip. And since they're fake, I think we're going to go with the ratings. Keep doing it. Right? I mean, it just that's where we're at. And it's not just Stormy Daniels, it's Russiagate. I mean,
at least that has national consequence, though. If it's getting overblown, fine. You can argue that. We can argue about that all day. But at least that matters. Like if there's a foreign government fucking with our elections, that's relevant. Stormy Daniels isn't. I mean, she can do her legal thing. I respect her for, speaking up, basically saying as soon as she got called a liar, she said, you can call me a lot of things, but that ain't one of them. And I respect that on a personal level. So what she's doing, cool. But CNN's making it like the top story. And I was in the hotel the other day and it just was nonstop. A lawyer who once talked to Stormy Daniels' dog said that, and just like, fucking stop it.
Yeah. So I
now we've talked about Stormy Daniels more than I wanted to. Well, we could be talking about Rick Santorum, my other favorite. Never mind. I was going to call him a bimbo, but I do not like. I despise Rick Santorum. I really, really dislike Rick Santorum, and I think Rick Santorum is a really unintelligent human being, and it amazes me that he is a lawyer and a former senator.
Okay, can we just stop identifying people as lawyers?
Okay.
I feel like it's
being directed at you. It is not. It is not.
Look bad. I'm going to start finding dumbass engineers in a minute.
They exist by the ton. I promise you. By the way, doesn't Bullet taste amazingly good when it's following this stuff?
Yeah, it does. That's dangerous. That's because this is that stuff is terrible. But I gave it an 84, and I gave it downgrade it to a 70.
You want to see the number that I originally wrote before I upgraded it?
Was that
79? Yeah, I was at 79. Then I took another sip, and I'm like, okay, it's not that bad.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So Rick Santorum also upset that these kids just won't stop talking about this. Why do they need to keep bringing up all these negative things about guns when they could be doing positive things like learning CPR to make it better? Rick, when someone gets shot, CPR not the way to go. Now, to his credit, he backtracked and said that his statement was dumb. I give him a little bit of credit for that because a lot of times
he said he misspoke.
Okay, all right. I'm taking back giving him credit. I thought he admitted that what he said was.
He may have tried to venture down the road of it wasn't the I should I should think about what I'm saying or whatever, all that nonsense. But his official thing was that he misspoke. Didn't quite say what he meant.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
Rick,
he did.
Idiot. I know you don't like name calling, but he's a fucking idiot. So anyway, Rick Santorum and Laura Ingraham both get a big shut the fuck up from me. And before we talk about anything else, did you know Adnan Syed's getting a new trial? If you don't know who Adnan Syed is, he's the kid that was convicted of murder about 20 years ago. He's been his entire adult life essentially behind bars for allegedly murdering his ex-girlfriend. Heyman Lee was her name. And it sparked the Serial podcast, which got people to look at the case, which got people from the Innocence Project involved. And it really showed the power of podcasting. I mean, we haven't gotten anyone out of jail yet, but other podcasts have and will continue to. And if you listen to the Truth and Justice podcast, that started because of the Adnan Syed case. If you look at it from a legal standpoint, what put him in prison was just plain garbage. Witnesses were coerced and their technical data was terrible. Anyway, his conviction was vacated before, and now he's actually been awarded a new trial. So, again, the power of podcasts. This guy could go free and should. By the way, I feel horrible for the family of the victim because their tragedy has become thrown back in the public spotlight for a couple of years now. And I'm sure, and I know from statements they've made that they believe Adnan did commit the crime. Now, if you want to know the best breakdown of that is the Truth and Justice podcast season 1. At the time, it was called Serial Dynasty, and the host of that show, Bob Ruff, did an amazing job of showing not only prosecutorial and police misconduct, but also actual logical evidence showing that things happened. I don't want to take credit for his work or spoil his work, but it becomes pretty clear that Adnan almost certainly didn't do it, certainly shouldn't have been convicted, and he does a pretty good job of laying out who probably did. So anyway, just a side note, but Adnan Syed getting a new trial I think is a pretty amazing, exciting thing.
It's still, like, when I was working in Baltimore, I spent a lot of time in the area where they found her body.
Leakin Park or wherever?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that was weird.
Okay.
There's Best Buy over there.
And the Best Buy comes into.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Allegedly, phone calls made from there. So yeah. I did not.
That phone's not there anymore.
Apparently, it never was. That's one of the other things Bob Ruff discovers is that phone that the call was allegedly made from.
Oh, okay.
Did not actually exist in that spot, so the testimony was questionable. All right, we can move on from that because we talk a lot on our show about social justice and unfortunately police misconduct and police shootings come into play. And we talked at the time a lot about the death of Alton Sterling in Louisiana, where he was involved in a scuffle with the police over selling CDs in a parking lot where the owner of the store gave him permission. So it wasn't like they were responding to a complaint by a businessman. They showed up. It got physical and aggressive. I just watched the video.
Tell the story that we knew, and then we'll get into the video.
All right. So we knew that these two cops got into a scuffle with him. They find a gun on his body. It's two cops fighting with this Alton Sterling, who's a big man. And
all right, hold on. I'll tell the story.
All right.
I don't like the way you're telling it.
All right.
So the police are called by a homeless man who said that he had approached the suspect, the would-be victim, Alton Sterling, and that Sterling had said some aggressive words to him and had a gun. The police show up, and as we heard the story, the police show up. He failed to comply with their orders. There was a video at the time that shows, all the video shows is him being tased and then being shot. After a physical altercation, there's little after that, and that happened. Was that 2 years ago? Yeah,
roughly.
So it was about 2 years ago, and so there was a video, but like I said, it comes in so late that all you see is Alton Sterling basically being tasered, go down. There's a scuffle on the ground. Cop starts screaming gun, and then shots go off. Then he's dead on the ground, and that's kind of it. And at the time, we're just like, well, that video doesn't tell us. We don't know what happened before. It's hard to say. In the video that you saw then, you really couldn't see him reaching for a gun, or you couldn't see a gun. And so it's just like, man, I mean, this is sketchy. And there was actually a cell phone video from the car, right? Because there was the video. No, we never saw the video from the officer. That's right.
Until now.
Until now. But the video we saw 2 years ago was from a cell phone from someone who was just in the parking lot recording the incident. And so from that angle, you couldn't see a whole lot, but what they were saying, what the police were saying, didn't align with what you were seeing on the tape. And so, 2 years later, comes out that the officer who shot Alton Sterling was fired, and then they released his body cam footage, and it's a completely different situation than what was described. In that, as soon as that officer whose body cam footage is released, as soon as he walks up to Alton Sterling, right now, mind you, this is a guy who's selling CDs in front of a store where he has permission, and all you have is a call from a homeless guy saying he's got a gun. The officer walks up and immediately puts his gun on his head and tells him he'll shoot him in the fucking head.
Right.
Put your hands on the car, I'll shoot you in the fucking head. Those are
actually, he grabs his arm with one hand and has the gun drawn with the other, right?
Right, immediately.
Right.
I mean, you're watching the video, you see him walk up, and then the first thing he does, grabs his arm, puts his gun on his head, tells him to put his hands on the car or he'll shoot him in the fucking head. And Alton Sterling immediately was like, whoa, what did I do? Whoa, what did I do? What did I do? Like, whoa, let's everybody calm down. Let's talk.
So the guy whose job should be to not escalate violence, the cop, escalates it immediately. And Alton Sterling is trying to be rational and calm with a gun pointed at him.
Right, with a gun pointed out. No, he's a big guy.
He's a big man, yes.
Right? I mean, he looks to go 6'3", 6'4", and probably easily 320 or more.
Yeah, around.
And he's a big man, but this officer from the get-go is on edge. Right? Now, again, there was a call that came in from a homeless person who says he had a gun. And now the one thing I watched this video a number of times, I never saw the gun. They referenced the gun.
I think it's in his pants pocket. So I think when they're struggling with him,
there's a part,
they come across it.
But they're saying, after he's shot and on the ground, they're saying, "Where's the gun? Where's the gun?" It looked like,
I don't think it ever leaves his pocket.
Right, because the other officer goes into the car, comes back, and then they kept searching him, and I never saw it.
What I'm going to say is going to sound really shitty and cynical, but it looked to me like they put their hand on his pocket, felt the gun, and said, "Now we have the right to do this," and shot him. That's the way it felt to me. It was like, what are we doing? We're in this struggle. It's not going great. And as soon as they said, "Okay, now we're justified," it was like bang. That's how it felt to me. I'm projecting. I know I'm projecting, but that's how it felt to me.
I don't know how else to describe it. I'm still not confident about what was going on with the gun in the pocket and everything else. And I'm just saying, when you watch the video, it's so, there's a lot going on
right
there. And that's how it felt. That's how it looked to me and you on tape. It just feels like this could have been handled another way, where they, and people will say, well, he shouldn't have resisted. But here's the thing: no matter who it is, whether it's a cop or a soldier or your buddy or some person you don't know, when someone starts being physical with you as a human, your thoughts are fight or flight, not dead weight. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. People, you're when you feel under attack, it's fight or flight. And a lot of people, it's flight. Some people, it's fight. But that interaction, it shouldn't just as a decent human being standpoint, it shouldn't end in death, right? But from what we know from our discussions with Mike Wood, when you go into his book talking about, how things escalate from traffic stop to hole in your head from the officer's gun. And based off of what their protocols are, like you as a civilian, when in the presence of a police officer, your only option is to comply. Once you stop complying with that officer, as dramatic as it sounds, it could absolutely end in death for you. Right now, people will fight Mike on that.
So we need to throw a promotion. So Mike Wood's book is Crimes and Punishments in the 21st Century. It's available on Amazon. He actually
He sent us copies, right?
Yeah,
and
sent us copies.
And he kept yelling at us about not reading it, so I went back and I had read it and skimmed it, but I went back and I actually read it, like all the way through. So, and it's definitely a good read. Although he gets a little weird. No, I'm kidding.
We need to have him on. We talk about him too much not to have him actually on our show.
That's true. Let's do it next weekend. All
right. I'll reach out to him.
So, but how you get from non-compliance to death when you read Mike's book and you think about interactions with police officers, and we get rid of this idea of protect and serve, right? Like as Mike said, he told us in a text, it's a fancy slogan that they throw on cars. But if you go through and you look through the police manual, right? Where does it say protect and serve?
Protecting property is
right. It's not about hey, are you lost? Are you having trouble? All right, let me pick you up and take you home. You may get an officer who's nice enough to do that, but that's not their duty. That's not their job. That's not what they're called to do, right? Like that's not what it's about. So when you think about what their actual job is, right, day in and day out, what their actual job is and what they're actually protecting and who they're actually serving, it's not you as the citizen. Right, it's not you, especially when you, the citizen, are possibly an offender or a disruptor of our laws or of our systems, or you're invading property that isn't yours, or even if it is yours. In some instances.
Right. Which brings us to Stephon Clark, who was chased down because there was a call that someone was vandalizing or breaking into cars. He is in his grandmother's backyard. He had a cell phone that he
had a cell phone.
He had a cell phone, and the officers allegedly
had a cell phone in his hand,
and and it was mistaken for a gun. He got shot at a total of 20 times, hit in the back 6 times, and maybe I'm being a bit sensationalist when I emphasize that, but dude got shot in the back 6 fucking times. He got shot. The fact that he got shot, period, is ridiculous.
Just recognize he busted out the 10 high.
Yeah. 10 high bourbon, my go-to cheap bourbon that I still stand by as being a real good bargain for the price. I'm gonna review that without you here.
No, I'll do it with you. All
right,
you got to get a fresh bottle.
I will get a fresh bottle. The fact that it's a gigantic plastic bottle is probably a poor
representation
of myself. Yes. I think if I ever did an autobiography, it would be called "Whiskey in a Plastic Bottle."
Which that would be a good title.
That would be a good title, wouldn't it? All right, so back to Stephon Clark.
But he was shot 6 times in the back.
Yeah.
Which is significant because why? I mean, you have to wonder what's going on. Like, we saw a gun and our lives were in danger. We were threatened. So we shot him. All right, well, you shot him in the back. So how exactly were your lives in danger? Just thinking this through, like without getting into what does the book say and what are the rules and blah, blah, blah. Just like, I'm just thinking this through. Right, like the guy's back is to you, like so he's probably running away, a la Walter Scott down in South Carolina. So you're telling me you're afraid for your life. You're afraid he's going to run so fast that way that he comes up behind you. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I mean,
and it's a cell phone. Now the whole thing with the cell phone is it's dark,
right?
But it's dark, so it's dark, and all they had on the camera, like on the body cam, all they have are the flashlights. I think either that they're holding or that they may have been mounted to the gun. I can't remember, and I don't know if you can tell. But if that's all the light that you have, and you're running right, and then you come to a stop, they're bouncing around a little bit. You mean to tell me with that light? You were able to identify that he had a gun in his hand, an object in his hand that could possibly be a gun, and then shoot him. But when you shot him 20, you shot at him 20 times, and 6 of the rounds hit him in the back. Like it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sure they will find some scientist who will be able to clearly explain to a grand jury how he was assaulting them. With his back to them, with a cell phone. I don't
know that both of them were behind him. I know that at least one shooting officer was behind him.
Yeah, they both were. Have you seen the video?
I guess not. I thought I did.
Of Stephon Clark?
Yeah, I thought
Dude, I mean, you have two officers.
I've seen the helicopter video. I've not seen the body cam video.
The body cam video. Let's say this,
we're reenacting with whiskey bottles.
Let's say this Bushmills bottle is. Let's say this Bushmills bottle is Grandma's house.
This is great.
Okay.
All right.
And then we'll say Whiskey Cup 1 and Whiskey Cup 2 are the officers.
Okay.
You have Whiskey Cup 1 is Officer 1. Whiskey Cup 2 is Officer 2. They're like, this is the back of the house or the side of the house. They're like this and this kind of.
Oh, so they're right next to each other.
They're right next to each other.
So they
here,
have the same vantage point.
And then he is, and this is the backyard. He is over here in the backyard, right? Like, so they're both firing this way. He's this way. So the whole idea.
Okay, that makes it shit. All right, I saw the helicopter video, and I heard the audio. I did not see the body cam video.
Well, what did you see in the helicopter video?
Just chaos. It didn't really give up much. It was on CNN, and it just showed, spotlighting a backyard, and the audio was really the key thing. That it had audio of on the ground stuff. I heard about it while I was driving. So
okay.
So yeah, I am not as well informed here as I should be.
You see the body cam video, and you want to, as a law-abiding citizen, for the most part. You want to give the police, because we've been conditioned to think this way, the benefit of the doubt, right? We want to believe the mantra of protect and serve. We want to believe that they're all good guys that have a hard job, that just want to get home to their wife and kids or their family or their dog or whatever. And so we want to give them the benefit of the doubt that it's their word against criminals' words. We have to trust them because of their job, and we don't trust the criminals. And if we've given them the responsibility and the ability to
use the training, right? We have that
training, but we've given them the training, and we've given them the green light to use fatal force if need be. Then we accept the consequence that if they have to use it, they use it, and that it's justified. And we've gotten to a point now where we insulate them and protect them at all costs, unless it's so egregious that you can't, right? Like, but that bar of, that level of outrage for questionable or bad behavior continues to lower, right? That bar continues to go down to, now I guess it gets higher, right? Because now it has to be so blatant, so egregious on film, right? In the middle of the day, with a witness. And it's gotta, it's gotta be so bad, right? Like if there's any possibility or anything that would be questioned, then the chances of the officer actually being charged with the crime is virtually zero.
One thing we didn't say earlier regarding Alton Sterling is that the officers will not be charged. Now, one of them was fired.
The officer who shot him.
The shot was fired. But there will be no criminal charges there. And I mean, I hate to say it, but if there were, they wouldn't stick. I mean, even went to a trial. We've seen too many times that doesn't happen.
I mean, the guy who shot Walter Scott was the only one that I can think of.
And even in that case, right, in South Carolina, it was a hung jury. Federally, he got convicted.
Right.
Yeah.
And now the chances of a case like that being taken to federal court is slim to none.
Really slim, yeah.
Because, you have in this whole issue with Stephon Clark, the White House came out and said, local police shootings are local matters. Right, we stand behind law enforcement, and these, civilians being shot by police are local issues that should be handled by local authorities. That was Sarah Huckabee Sanders, in giving the White House stance on police shootings.
Now, where do you come out on that? Because I can see the logic behind them saying that, saying that this is not a federal matter. I don't believe the White House needs to directly get involved, but I also see it as being a detached mentality.
I see. Yeah, that's what it is, and it is detached. And you can make the you can talk about states' rights and local jurisdictions handling it, and the White House not overstepping their bounds. But you still have a Department of Justice whose part of their job is when people are denied their rights based off of factors like race, religion, sex, and the other thing, then they are supposed to defend it. And if you have police officers that are that are killing people, and it doesn't look like for any other reason than, well, he was a suspect of a crime and he was black, so chances are he was guilty and probably had a gun, right? Like, then that's not a reason to fucking murder someone. So that's a reason why, if you're looking at it from a national sense, based on, if you're being honest about what our justice system is, then that's something that the Department of Justice is tasked with looking at. And the reason why they're tasked with looking at it is because local and state authorities may not be able to be objective.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
We task our federal government. In theory, we task our federal government with that level of objectivity, but in reality, it's not there. We had a president who briefly tried to bring it with President Obama, and they tried to crucify him over it.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying I can't argue with anything that you just said, but I will say this: the idea that we know why the Trump administration doesn't want to comment on this. They want to be pals with law enforcement and whatever. But
and a majority of the population who agrees that black criminals should just comply. If black criminals just complied, then they wouldn't get shot. There's a majority of the population who strongly believes that, which we'll call that his base. But there are plenty of people beyond the people who voted for him who believe that when black people are shot by police, 99.9% of them deserve it because, well, they didn't listen.
You're not wrong. The only thing I'm going to say in Sarah Huckabee Sanders' defense is, at this stage, the Sacramento has not dropped the ball yet in terms of prosecuting and investigating. It's on them to do it right before the feds step in, which is what happened with the Michael Slager, whatever the guy who shot Walter Clark is, when Walter Scott.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're
sorry,
you're right,
sorry.
But I mean, I think we know where this is going, right? It doesn't feel like Sacramento is going to be any different than Cleveland or Baton Rouge or Cincinnati,
Baltimore, Charleston,
right?
Charlotte,
Cleveland. Like, they're not going to be any different than anywhere else. It feels like this is going to get buried. They're going to be on administrative leave for an extended period of time, and a year to 18 months or 2 years from now, a decision will be made where they're suspended or no charges are filed or whatever. Maybe they lose their jobs. That's kind of best, in my opinion, pessimistic, but best case scenario, one or both of the officers loses their jobs. And
it's because you've proven based on your actions you're not suited for this job, whether your inability to recognize the difference between a cell phone and a handgun, or your lack of composure under. I'm not saying it's easy. If I'm chasing someone, it's got to be scary as fuck, and I get that, but it's your job to not kill people who, in this case, were in their grandmother's backyard.
Well, that's not, but going back to Mike Wooden, we talk about him all the time, and you go back to his book. I don't necessarily know if you can say that it's not your job, right, or that it's your job to not kill them, right? I mean, based off of what we see,
way the system is built,
the way the system is built, based on how they are trained. We keep talking about the training, but the training is what's getting us from here to there, So I don't know if we can continue to preach those things like they sound good, but are they accurate? Are they true? And based off of people with experience, there are police officers who will dance around it. They'll go to the comfort phrases to make people feel better. But when you talk about their actual training and you talk about their actual experience and how they're supposed to apply it, I don't know.
All right. I mean,
it's kind of a shitty way to look at it, but that's why, that's why as a black male, when I talk to these young kids, it's like, listen, I know you're all about fuck the police and you feel NWA taught you the way and everything else, but listen, you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful. I know it's not, fuck your ego. You got to be careful. If you want to walk away from that situation, then keep your mouth shut. I'm not saying you got to wish him a nice day and kiss his ass, but, keep your mouth shut, keep the answers short and accurate and, and save your life. We could worry about the legal system. We'll fight it every which way that we can from higher levels, but you deal with your day in court. Don't deal with a fucking bullet in your head.
Right. By the way, I'm starting to watch Making a Murderer. Jesus Christ. I know. Well, I've been Netflixing a lot lately, and I finally started watching that. So we can talk about that.
We're not going to talk about
it. We're not on the show. But I'm just saying that's another example of police sketchiness.
Yeah, it's all sketchy.
Let me get going on.
Okay,
let me get deeper into it. But it's interesting.
I understand. All sketchy.
I understand why it was so popular.
And that's it.
All right.
Transitioning.
Yes, transitioning.
We're going to transition completely now and talk a little sports. It's going to be kind of local, but it's kind of national.
LeBron is never local. Never 100% local.
LeBron is playing out of his mind right now.
All right. So he's what? He's
32, because this is year 15.
Right. And so he came out at 18. So 33, 32, 33.
I think he's 32 because his birthday's in December. Whatever.
He does not look 32. He doesn't feel like he's 30 because he's been in the league for so damn long. He is playing out of, you're right, he's playing out of his fucking mind. He had a game the other day where he had, 35 points, 17 assists, and 12 rebounds or something crazy like that?
His typical stat lines have been in the 30s, teens, and, he's almost averaging a triple-double, and his point totals are near 40. His assists are 10 or more, and, or his rebounds are 10 or more, and his assists are close to 10.
Approaching there, yeah.
It's crazy. He's playing at this ridiculous level. The team is young and inexperienced. He's carrying it. He's getting to the point in the fourth quarter where he gets everybody involved. The Cavs will be down in the third quarter. He'll get everybody involved. They battle back. It's back and forth. The other team, goes down and scores, and then, the Cavs come up, and he'll give it to Clarkson. He'll give it to Nance or whoever. And then he gets to that point in the fourth quarter where he's just like, well, I'm gonna be the only one who handles the ball, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put this thing away. And he does it from three. He gets dunks. He gets layups. He gets mid-range jumpers. He makes defensive stops. He goes on a bender for about 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden the Cavs are up 7. The other team is not sure what happened. Their best player is confused as to why he can't score anymore. It's because LeBron's decided that he's not allowed to score, and LeBron decided that he is the only one who can score. And then the game is over. He gives somebody a gross, sweaty hug. He talks to the reporters, and then they talk to some young guy who's just like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. I thought we lost until I realized we won because he's that good, and that's it. He's done it about 50 times this year. Right? Because really the Cavs without LeBron would be a 30-win team, and maybe that's overstating it.
I think probably is.
Kick me a little bit of that garbage. And that to me is what your MVP is. Like, he's the guy who has his team in the playoffs that if you didn't have him, they not only would not be in the playoffs, but they'd be in the lottery of the NBA draft. And it's gonna go to Harden.
The MVP will go to Harden, right? But do you feel like the league just says LeBron's won 4 of these? It's almost like the MVP has almost become a who else can we give it to? And I don't want to go. I'm not going conspiracy, and I'm not blaming anybody. But LeBron is so chiseled in the argument of best player alive. I think you can put him in best of all time easily at this point. That they almost want to spread it around.
That's the feel.
Communism.
It's the feel of the socialism of the MVP and gratitude. I watch LeBron play, and then you watch the team play without him, and it's just like, this is not the same team.
Right.
And they can barely maintain a lead, and they usually don't when he steps out. They've gotten a little bit better with the new cast, but he makes all the difference in the world on both ends of the ball. James Harden is a very good player, can score at will. His defense has gotten better. The team is definitely, the best. It's 1A, 1B between them and Golden State.
Right.
And he's the best player on arguably the best team. But is James Harden the best player in the league? Like, here's the question: if you swapped Harden and LeBron James, where would the teams be? If you put LeBron James on the Houston Rockets, right?
Oh my goodness!
Without James Harden, that team is still 1A, 1B. If you put James Harden on the Cavs, are they still the 3 seed? They're
not as good as they are now, right?
Are they in the playoffs? Barely.
Yeah, probably they're playoffs.
I mean, barely. Because it's the East, but I don't think Harden has the impact for his team that LeBron has for his team. And the thing that goes in LeBron's favor is, like, listen, for the last decade, the finals have had LeBron James in them.
Essentially, yeah.
Like, he's been in Cleveland the last 3 years, and Cleveland has been in the finals the last 3 years in a row with a title won.
And Miami was in 4 of them, and I think he was in one of them before.
Yeah,
so they were anyway. Yeah, I think you can so easily make the argument that he's the greatest player of all time right now, and it's crazy that you think of him being an older player because he's been around forever, and because he's been so deep in the playoffs every year for so many years, he's essentially played 2 extra seasons over the past 4.
Yeah.
So you think he should be slowing down. Right. And he's literally playing the best ball of his life now.
He is. Now, part of it is he's just his basketball IQ has always been high.
Right.
And now it's just he's at a point now where he just knows the game so well. He knows himself so well. His team, even his teammates, even though they basically swapped out the whole team at the trade deadline, he knows his teammates well. He knows these teams that he's playing. He knows them inside out. He knows the coaches. He knows the players. And he has all that going for him. And then you take the way he takes care of his body, right? Because you've had guys who've taken care of their body where they lift a lot, right? Like, you've had Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan who conditioned incessantly. But a lot of those guys were, they just banged around. They went to the weight room and they banged around. They just ran their asses off. And, they beat themselves to shit. And they didn't know what they were doing. They trained really hard. And then they played a lot of basketball. But eventually their bodies wore down. They slowed down. He has the advantage of, time and lessons learned and technology and everything else. So he applies that work ethic with new technology, knowledge, and, the ability to preserve oneself over time with nutrition and all that other stuff with, he's got a guy who literally follows him around year round to take care of his body. He's got nutritionists.
It's like Tom Brady,
right?
As much as I hate Tom Brady, you got to respect the fact that at 40 years old,
these guys spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their body year in and year out, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what they make, but it's worth it. And you see the benefit for Tom Brady. Tom Brady's will be in his 40s playing at a relatively high level in the NFL, which is unheard of, especially for a quarterback. LeBron James is in his mid-30s, and he is outplaying guys that are 10 years younger than him, and it's not even close. So, and it's not just because he's an OG and he's smarter than everybody else. It's because physically you can't do a fucking thing with him.
He is maybe the most difficult player.
He's one of the hardest players of all time to guard because he's big, strong, fast, tall, athletic.
He's not
smart.
quite as strong as Karl Malone, but he's close. He's not quite as smooth as passing as Magic Johnson, but he's close. He's not quite as jump out of the gym as Michael Jordan, but he's close. All of those wrapped in one.
Excuse me?
Michael Jordan was, I think, a touch more athletic. No?
Jim, I watched LeBron James last night grab a rebound where his elbow was above the rim. His elbow was above the rim. He had cupped the ball in his wrist. Then he landed. He landed on one foot, did a half turn and got the ball to half court before you could blink an eye, and it was a dead accurate pass that any quarterback for the Browns in the last 10 years would have fucking cried because they know they couldn't have completed that pass.
All right, I'll take that back. I'll take that back because today I went to the gym today and they're selling a.
Let's talk about this for an hour.
And they have like a silent auction going on of like Cleveland based or just cool things, and one of them is a picture of LeBron and the block when he blocks Iguodala. And when you see that just still photo.
Have you seen the sports science breakdown of that play?
No.
Sports Science on ESPN, after it happened, they broke it down. In Sports Science, it's kind of a little subsection.
I've seen that stuff. I did not see that play broken down.
It's a subsection of Sports Center and ESPN where they talk about the science of sports. And they broke that play down shortly thereafter, and they basically said, listen, if you look at the speed in which he ran, because he ran from the other side of the court, right, opposite side of the court, tracks him down at an angle, but still tracks him down at an angle, the height that he had to get to, and then the timing of it to be able to hit the ball at its highest point so it wasn't goaltending, and keep that ball from going anywhere near the goal. And I think he got it. Did he block that all the way out of bounds? I can't remember.
Off the backboard.
Yeah, he got it. Yeah, he got it off the backboard. In order for that to happen, the amount, like the timing, the speed, and the height in which he jumped, he said, like, essentially you hadn't seen anything like it before.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
in a still photo, he is towering over Iguodala, he's
right.
Who's elevating. And
Iguodala is 6'6" in the air, elevated, who's fully extended because he just shot. He had laid the ball up, and LeBron is at that point in time. It looked like his armpit is above the rim.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
I was trying to make the point that you take all those other great players, he does all of those things.
Like he's like, if you take all the great players, he is B to all of them, right? Like that's
what I was saying, and maybe I'm not being fair when I say that, because you might be A when you throw athleticism in there,
right? When you go to athleticism, I mean, people make that comparison all the time with the athleticism. I'm saying, guys, you actually haven't seen it before, right? Like we've seen very athletic guys, but like the way he's able to put it all together, like he's not just out there like running as fast as he can and banging his head on the rim. Like he has full control over his body all the time. That's the thing that makes it fucking crazy.
I've acknowledged that when he left Cleveland, I was a hater, and when he came back, I was immediately back on board. Real quick before we wrap up here, Ty Lue is on the coach of the Cavaliers is on medical leave. Do you think he comes back? I don't.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Okay, I think
he'll be back next Friday.
Really?
Yeah, they already announced it. So
really? Okay.
So here's I had
okay. I walked into that.
So I had a brief moment. I was going to. I almost
tried to give me a bet on something.
I was almost going to make you bet on it.
You would have succeeded, by the way.
And I know that I could have sucked you into it, but like my conscience took over. And I said, nah, I won't, because I just, like, the alert came through, I think, yesterday. Ty Lue will return to team on Friday in Utah or wherever the hell they're going to be. So
thank you for not taking advantage of my travel schedule. Anything before we close out?
No.
Review 10 High next show?
Not next show.
All right.
Not next show, but we will introduce our new segment next week.
So we're doing a segment called Come At Me, Bro, where Steve and I will challenge one another with an unscripted question. And if you have something you want Steve to ask me or me to ask Steve, email us respectively, Jim or Steve at whiskeycongress.com.
You know what? Actually, I'm coming at you right now, bro.
Oh, bring it.
Canelo Alvarez. Will that fight happen when it's scheduled?
No. I think that Canelo. Look, I'm a huge fan of Canelo. He's a great fighter. He's failed 2 drug tests now, and it's going to be hard to put that fight on and maintain the image of the sport with where things stand. There's so much money going to get lost if it doesn't happen, so it won't completely shock me if it does.
I don't think it can.
It's hard.
He failed 2 samples.
One was tough. Right. 2 makes it really tough.
2 makes it impossible. I don't think you can. The governing body, is it Las Vegas?
Right. Yep.
They've come out and they've actually, filed an official grievance against him. I don't think you can have the fight. I think, and it's not fair to Alvarez, right? I mean, if he,
it's not fair to Golovkin.
I'm sorry,
Golovkin.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not fair to Triple G, to fight a guy who's running hot.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're testing hot for whatever, whether it's clenbuterol,
is he testing positive for a masking agent, right?
No, he's testing positive for clenbuterol, which is a drug that people use to like cut fat, to cut weight without losing a lot of muscle mass.
I need to get some of that then.
Let me stop saying words.
Yes.
But now the weird thing about clenbuterol is that they give it to cows. You find it in cows, and if you eat, like you go to Mexico and you eat a bunch of meat, then chances are you will probably test positive for it because the cows consume a large amount of it, and you're gonna, if you eat enough, if you go down to Mexico and all you eat is red meat over the course of 2 weeks, then there's a legitimate chance that you may test positive for clenbuterol. That's the reality of the situation. Canelo Alvarez is from Mexico, and that's the reality of the situation. But I don't know what his nanograms per milliliter was so I don't know what the concentration in his blood was, and I don't know if the second test was clenbuterol or not, and what it was. So who knows? Now, clenbuterol, it's not the end of the world because it's not a muscle builder. Like I said, it's something to cut fat. But if that's allowing him to cut weight and make weight,
but to fight Triple G, he shouldn't have to. He's a physically smaller guy than Triple G.
I understand that.
All right,
I understand that, but I'm just saying.
I'm gonna come back at you, bro.
Okay, come at me, bro.
Odell Beckham Jr. has had some issues lately. If you're the Giants, do you keep Odell Beckham Jr.?
Well, they said the price tag is 2 first-round picks for him, and if I can get 2 first-round picks for him, absolutely, I will trade him.
Okay, I agree with that.
I will absolutely trade him for 2 first-round picks, and I will trade him for a first round and a second round, or I will trade him for a first round this year and a first round next year. Any combination of those few scenarios, yeah, I'll trade him.
So if you get your asking price, he's gone. Are you looking to get rid of him, or are you saying
no? I'm not looking to get rid of him. But if you're going to give me 2 first-round picks this year, or a first-round pick this year and a first-round pick next year, or a first round and a second round this year, or any combination of first round, second round this year, next year, yeah, I'll punt on him. I'll punt on almost anybody except for maybe Tom Brady or Ben Roethlisberger. Like a guy
right.
that but like a Drew Brees. I mean, if you're going to give me a first and a first or a first and a second for for like a Drew Brees who only has a couple
year
years left, then
yeah,
I'll take that too. But for Odell Beckham Jr., he's very dynamic and he's a game breaker and he's probably worth 2 wins a year. But if you're telling me that I'll be able to replenish with 2 first-round picks no matter where they are,
based on the Giants last year, he's worth about 7. They were a 10-win team and then a 3-win team,
right? So he is a dynamic player. People have their issues with him. I know this offseason there are pictures with him with a model in Europe with the
blunt and possibly
smoking
coke.
A blunt and doing coke. I mean, the only issue with that is that he was dumb enough to allow her to take a picture.
No, take a video. Fucking post a video.
Right. Like, come on. And part of listen, as a former athlete and
you're a current athlete. You just compete.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's
right. You're not a collegiate athlete anymore.
I'm not in the NFL. I don't have that type of spotlight on me. But as a guy who's had some experiences. All right, we'll just throw that out there and just
let dissipate. Okay.
There's, I don't. You have to know. Like you have to know your situations. You have to know your surroundings. I guess it was a little bit different when I was in college and even when I was in law school because. In law school, it was just kind of MySpace, Facebook, that sort of stuff. There wasn't really, and the video phones weren't nearly what I think at the time they were just picture phones because iPhone didn't come out until 2008,
I think that's right,
which was my last year of law school. So there's like, it was just a different time. Like now, mind you, my experience.
No, I'm 10 years older than you.
Right, but my experience in law school and my experience in Chicago was wild. Right, I just without getting into specifics, it was wild. And
to protect the innocent and the guilty,
but
we will not.
Even then, like people still had camera phones, and there were certain things like, all right, let's get to all right, we're in this room, so cell phones go in this room. Nefarious behavior goes on over here, while the phones are completely away, right? And you always were trying to be conscious enough so that you were aware of what was going on. And mind you, I was just a law student. Right, who didn't want to have to deal with anything sketchy, at all, dealing with ethics or anything else later down the line. Like you're in the NFL with the amount of money that you're already making, and that the potential money that you can lose. Like, and I know plenty of I know enough people and have heard enough stories about certain situations. Like, listen, cell phones go here until the end of the night. You get it back at the end of the night. If you absolutely have to have your cell phone, then you can't come in, or you're limited to this area. Right? Not that anything is happening that is abusive or whatever, but it's just like, listen, if we're all going to kind of, get into some shit, then let's get into some shit where we don't have to worry about it.
So here's where our age difference really highlights a lot of things. Because when I was in college, I witnessed and partook in some pretty fucked up stuff. And one of my friends had a Sony handheld camcorder.
I was going to say that, when you guys were on the Oregon Trail and all you had was rabbits and
what?
bears.
You're going to be a dick. If you want to be a dick, fine. But seriously, and the one friend in particular, he and his brother both went to WVU with me, and they had a house. Their dad bought a house because it was cheaper to buy a house and pay that and deal with room and board. And the shit that went on at that place was fucking crazy. And they had a handheld Sony camcorder. And some of the stuff that we filmed, I am not at all comfortable talking about. But at least you knew, this thing is right in front of you. And not everyone had it, and you couldn't put it online.
Some of the stuff
there was no online.
We had, handheld cameras in college, right? The Sony Handycam or whatever. But there was it's all right, you record this, the party, the dancing.
And the only people who saw it were the people who saw that tape in
right. But I mean, even as when I was in college as a player and my teammates that were players, a lot of the videos were, the guys high-fiving, hugs, jokes, making fun of this person, making fun of that person, terrible rap battles and all that sort of stuff. There were actually some really good ones because we had some guys who could actually really
I doubt
flow.
there were guys who could spit like me, but okay.
Me not punching you in the face right now is hard.
Based only on arm length and distance.
And my arms are long,
but not quite.
But I mean that was kind of the extent of what the videos were, with little hints of you'd have a rap battle going on, right? I mean, it maybe it was Taj and Deshaun going back and forth, and so the video was on them, and then there would be a quick pan to the left, and it's just oh, that girl's taking her top off, okay. All right. Oh, she's down low. Okay. All right. And then you go back to that, and then it's just all right. So that rap battle was cool, but what was going on over there? I don't know, man. Shut the video down.
Speaking of shutting it down, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah. Shut it down.
All right, man. Good talking to you. Nice to be able to do shows face to face again.
Good to see you.
A lot of whiskey going on. We are Whiskey Congress. We are on all the social media programs at Whiskey Congress. Check out our website. We have some articles out there, and
go to Political Storm. Check us out there.
Check us out on Political Storm. We're glad to be working with those guys. All right, brother. I'm out.
Talk to you.